After it was revealed that Donald Trump wants to build about 32,000 additional nuclear weapons at the cost of countless trillions of dollars, he didn't like that reporting had come out. He didn't like the reaction that it had. And so he responded by threatening to shut down media outlets that were critical of him. He tweeted this: with all the fake news coming out, didn't he come up with that word, fake? With all the fake news coming out of NBC and the networks, capital, at what point is it appropriate to challenge their license, capital? Bad for country. That's our president right there, kids. So challenge their license, as in his belief is that he can, as president, take away the ability of places like NBC to broadcast, because of course the government has a role in the licensing of the public airwaves to allow information to get out there, for shows to get out there. What he doesn't seem to understand is that the FCC is not involved with networks in that way. It would have no ability to stop NBC as a whole from broadcasting. It has to do with very particular local things. He doesn't get that. He tweeted another thing. Fake NBC News made up a story that I wanted a, quotes, tenfold increase. You can just put tenfold increase in our US nuclear arsenal. Pure fiction, made up to demean, NBC equals CNN, which is something many of our viewers would probably agree with, that last part. Well, MSNBC anyway. Yeah, so pure fiction. Now, when a report like the NBC News report comes out, you can't be sure that it's true just because NBC News, it's, that they check things, you can't be sure. But when he responds in this way, you know it's true. That's the pattern with Donald Trump. Now we're gonna have some video in just a second. But I know that there's a big debate between people who think that this is just bluster to take us off the real issue versus those who are worried that this is a guy who will do what he can to shut down media outlets like a tin pot dictator that are critical of him, and that we should take it seriously.
Yeah, so there's a legitimate issue here, and then of course there's Donald Trump. So the legitimate issue is, these folks were given the public airwaves and they weren't charged anything. In return, they were supposed to provide public information and news. And then at some point they were like, just kidding. We're gonna turn news into a profit center. So they twisted news into something that it was never meant to be. So I don't want to get into a long history of that, but the bottom line is, if he were to say, look, I'm going to treat all of the TV stations fairly, equally, but now they have to pay for the public airwaves, well, that would be a really interesting conversation, right? Or provide some sort of public service, because are they really providing a public service now?
The vast majority of the ones he has a problem with are not they're cable, like they already are doing that in many cases.
Yeah, so
you're right, it's a big conversation.
So that's an interesting intellectual conversation that people have from time to time. That is not the conversation Donald Trump is having. Okay. So a guy who says bad for country is not having an intellectual conversation. And random letters equals random letters. But NBC equals CNN. What is that? Anyway, so no, he's saying, I want to punish people who are speaking against me. Well, that would be the single most unconstitutional thing you could do, because the government cannot impede your freedom of speech or the freedom of the press. That is clearly lined out. It can't be any clearer than it is in the First Amendment. So when he says, me no like what you say, NBC bad, like CNN bad, I don't want to punish the other guys. Fox News is awesome. They don't have to pay for the public airwaves or anything like that.
I read today he calls Sean Hannity after most of Sean Hannity's shows.
Okay, but me no like you. Okay, me shut your speech down.
Yeah.
Well, then okay, then you don't believe in America, because I mean, come on. All the right wingers who cry about Milo or Shapiro and all these guys and their freedom of speech.
Where are they?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't get any more freedom of speech than the government.
Where are the classic liberals?
Where are the classic liberals? The government saying that if you say something wrong about the government, we will shut you down.
Yeah.
So the guy doesn't understand America. He doesn't understand democracy either. He just wants to be king. Yeah, he's like, why won't they just do what I tell them to do?
Yeah.
Why do I have to work with a Congress or a court system or the press? No, I won. And he thinks I'm the president means I'm the king, I'm the dictator. You now have to do whatever I tell you. That's not how our system of government works.
Yeah, and we have an international audience, and so I'm sure that there are people watching the show right now that live in countries that at one point had a free press and then found that it was taken away from them by people like Donald Trump in their own country. So feel free to comment about your experience. Hopefully we will never experience it, but we can still learn from your experience. And finally, if you're one of the people that is attempting to maintain your mental health by only occasionally checking in on Donald Trump, let alone with his tweets, you might think, okay, this is just another one of his random blusters. Like it's a threat. He comes up with stuff like this all the time. But this is not a random new thing from Donald Trump. These threats to tighten up our libel laws and to look into media outlets, that is a pattern that he has gone to a number of times since the campaign, during the campaign, and in his private life long before the campaign. This is a man who has been attempting to sue out of existence anyone who criticized him for literally decades. So please do not make the perhaps fatal mistake of assuming that this is just a threat that he would never follow through on. He has already in his private life done what he can to shut down criticism of him, and there is no reason to believe that he would not do it as president.
If you like the Young Turks, you'll love Young Turks membership. tytnetwork.com/join.